of men get eating disorders too. I can't really remember the last time I was the vice chair. I think it was when I was in a sports club and there was only two of us, so I got the second role. But also, I'm going to talk about today is my personal story. But I'm also going to try and answer these questions. Should we still understand male body image as issues as atypical? Has social media had a positive, negative, or no impact at all on male body image? Has social media amplified the suffering of men with body image issues? What can we do to prevent the negative effects of social media on male body image? And how do we help more males with body image difficulties? So, how many of you think we still see male body image issues as atypical? Put your hands up. Yeah? So it's still an issue that hasn't really been looked into enough, and there needs to be a lot more research, as we've heard today from the brilliant speakers, some heartwarming stories, but there still needs to be a lot more done to help men who suffer from things such as anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and body dysmorphic disorder. So I just want to show you some figures. These aren't actually my figures, just to make a point. But eating disorders in men have risen by 70% in NHS figures. The number of men admitted to hospital with eating disorders grew at the same rate as among women between 2010 and 2016. And also there was research done that said they interviewed 1,018 to 18-year-olds, 23% believed that there was a perfect male body image, and 56% saw eating disorders as a boys and girl issue. So that's quite interesting, because what we're seeing is people, especially young people, are recognizing that body image issues are a thing that affects boys and girls, but it seems that we still have a long way to catch up to get to the point where it's universally recognized within contemporary society. The next figure is, has social media had a positive, negative, or no impact at all? Now, I've got to say, this isn't the best research in the world. It isn't, well funded or anything like that, but I did a Twitter poll, which is fantastic. It's the cheapest way, which is slightly ironic since I'm talking against social media today, but 84% said it was negative. 84% said it was negative, and as you can see there, 0% thought it was a positive thing to male body image. There was also, if my maths is correct, 16% of people said it had no effect at all. So as you can see, a large sway towards people saying it's had an extremely detrimental effect to male body image. And also at Parliament Street, we've done some figures. We did some FOI requests that showed that 19,320 reported offences related to social media, including body shaming and cyberbullying, were reported by UK police forces. We also found that Facebook users were 36 times more likely to fall victim to cyberbullying or body shaming than rival social media platforms such as Twitter, and also marginally smaller Instagram, which is actually quite surprising. You think Instagram would be the heavyweight in all of this, but actually Facebook is the heavyweight. We also found that Merseyside police had recorded 11,786 incidents of cyberbullying, harassment, and body shaming incidents, and that equates to 61% of our final results, and that was just in Merseyside, which is quite. And Greater Manchester was second, with 1,774. So you can see the difference between Merseyside and Manchester, which is huge. But also one of the biggest issues with this bit of research was that the way the police recorded. So we found that our original request asked for body image, body shaming, and unfortunately the police put it all together. They put cyberbullying, body shaming, and harassment all together. So I'm not saying these statistics are the reason we are seeing a rise in men with eating disorders, because there is an issue with the way they record it. But what I will say is that it does show the detrimental effect that social media is having on people in our country. And specifically for Facebook, there was 6,000 292 incidents. And the total number of cyberbullying and harassment and body shaming incidents on Twitter was only 177. So you can see the difference, the disparity between Facebook and Twitter. Now, not to quote myself, but we wrote a report paper on mental health in the social media society. And I think it's important to stress, we're not saying that social media is the reason for eating disorders or the reason for these body image issues, but what we are saying is there is an extremely detrimental effect which can amplify the effects of social media. So what we've said here is for those who may have a sensitivity around their appearance or look, social media has the potential to reinforce as opposed to dispelling negative beliefs about one's appearance and provides a perfect medium to indulge in our insecurities around body image. Such pressure can apply to both male and females alike, enhancing and exaggerating individual insecurities and increasing the likelihood of preconceived negative evaluations about one's self or fact. And also, the youth health movement talked about 14 to 24-year-olds and, 14 to 24-year-olds, and they interviewed 1,500 people, and they found yet again 4 out of 5 most popular forms of social media harmed young people's mental health. So there is a massive issue, and I think as we see these technological advances, there is going to be a huge issue when it comes to health professionals and trying to deal, specifically when it comes to body image issues, how to deal with these up-and-coming technological advances and how to support young people, especially, who tend to use them in the best way possible. Now, I'm just going to tell you a bit about my story, how it all comes in, because as well as doing research into this, one of the reasons I did research into this was due to my own experience. And I'm just going to touch on it briefly, but at 14 years old, I started to have negative thoughts about my appearance. I started to believe that the only way to fit in and the only way to be part of my new school was to be perfect and sort of try to become that idea of perfect male body image. And due to that, I started developing certain rituals. And interestingly, one of the rituals I did was selfie taking. I used to take 200 a day further on down the line, but also I did things such as purging to reduce my body weight, excessive exercise. I was a rugby player at the time, so I wanted to do all this stuff to try and make me look perfect, really, and try to fit into the mold of what society thought was perfect. And from that point, it developed to such a point that, unfortunately, I had to drop out of education at the age of 16, partly because of the role the school played. The school didn't really give the support that's needed, but that conversation's for another day. I won't get too much into that. And on top of that, there wasn't really the support available outside of the school, the provision in the local NHS trust to give me that help and to give that early intervention. I know that's a great sort of line to say, and every health professional I've met always says early intervention is great, and it just wasn't there. So I actually became housebound, and I didn't leave the house for 6 months. I didn't even leave the house to get some fresh air or anything, because I thought I looked like an alien. I thought I was so fat and so ugly that one of the things I thought is that kids would be scared of me if I walked down the street. So I didn't want to be around kids, so I didn't want to scare them. Which is odd, it's terrifying, as a human being to actually think that way about yourself, but that's how serious it became. And, I spent my days looking through magazines, looking through GQ, Esquire, all these, the perfect images of men, and trying to raise myself to that standard. Spent 10 hours a day in the mirror, took 200 photos of myself a day, and as Maggie came through earlier, I became known as Britain's first selfie addict because of that reason. But a lot of the traits, as you can imagine, actually stretched out into eating disorder sort of territory, in the sense that I was striving for the perfect body and I was purging and limiting my food. to try and obtain that perfect body image. And unfortunately, it reached a point where it reached crisis point. And unfortunately ended up in the A&E department. But through that, that's when I started to get help and get support. And luckily, I did get support, unlike a lot of people. So I was quite lucky at the Maudsley Hospital in London. But I still had to travel from Newcastle to London to get there. But because I got that support, I, managed to get back the things that I lost. For example, my education. Dropping out of school at 16 isn't exactly the best for life chances. I managed to get back my GCSEs in 2015, get my diploma in 2016, and I'm now a student at the University of York in 2017. So that's what happens when you get the support. On top of that, my social life, I lost a lot of my friends due to my illness. But now I have some great friends, and my university and friends outside of that have stuck by with me. And on top of that, my family life is back to normal. My parents, my sisters, we're all best friends again. It's great fun. Even my dog, my dog loves me. I had to mention Harry. But also, I use social media for a very different reason now. I use social media to help others, to talk about mental health, to talk about body image, to talk about all these things that unfortunately I fell foul to. And it just shows if you can get that support and the level of provision for a male with a body image issue, you can start to fight through these barriers, and you can start to get your life back together. And I know, Lynn told a fantastic story about her son, and it just shows, how courageous and how amazing all of them things are to break through them barriers. Now, I want to also focus on how we reduce the negative effects of social media on male body image. I think this is a really good one. Now, I don't claim to have all the answers, but this is what I came up with. Okay, let me explain my little chart. Firstly, I think the best way to get past this is the government needs to work with social media companies, and I think they're starting to do that to stop the risk to vulnerable individuals. There is a lot more work that needs to be done, but there is some movement on that. And individuals who are passionate about helping people with eating disorders, we need to demand that extra support. And charities and social enterprises should work with social media companies to offer mandatory mental health support available online. This was one of the key things we talked about in our research paper, the idea to push social media companies to offering that support online, because for every bit of support online, unfortunately, there's a link to a negative site, such as pro-anorexia sites online. But I've put individuals in bold, and this probably goes back to my fixers days, in the sense of the importance of the individual. Because let's face it, government doesn't like to do anything unless it has to, okay? So, and the only way to get government to do something is through charities and social enterprises who actually support and facilitate individuals actually telling their stories, a bit like fixers, who actually support individuals and get it out there. But without that clear link, without individuals actually speaking about their stories, getting it out there, being brave, being bold, being courageous, and actually making change in mental health, none of this is going to happen, and we're not going to move forward. So for all of you who've already spoken about your mental illness, you are the bravest people I know, and for all that feel like they want to, I would encourage you to do so, because really, you become heroes. I appreciate that. And also, on top of that, how do we help more men with body image issues? Now this, I feel in a way I'm oversimplifying how we help people, but we've come up with these things at Men Getting Those Two. One of the things we need to talk about, we need more support groups. We all know one of the difficulties with getting men in inpatient units is the fact that, male and female units tend to be a bit of an issue. And this may be a slight oversimplification, but unfortunately, male body image issues don't end at the Watford Junction. Okay, there is actually people with male body image issues in the north. Does everyone know where the north is? Okay, it's Newcastle. Newcastle is in the north. It's not in Scotland. But yeah, so we need to help more people with that. And one of the things we have been talking about in Manga Insource too is the possibility of expanding our support groups out into Newcastle and York and Leeds and Cambridge and Wales and Plymouth, into these important areas, because there really is, well, there's not much provision at all in these key areas, these key places. So what we want to do at Mega Insource with this team is to actually start to expand into these different areas and really start to support people and really start to offer that hope to individuals who suffer from eating disorders, and men specifically who suffer from eating disorders, because you know what? Recovery is possible. Recovery is so possible. You know, I see so many people in front of me, and I know some of them who have just proven that, who have defied the odds and proven that recovery is possible. But also on top of that, we need to look at inpatient provision. I mentioned the difficulty between male and female wards and the difficulty around that. But if we can start to try and look at the idea of more inpatient provision for men, specifically at the more severe end, that would be very helpful. And yet again, I come back to the idea of the individual, the citizen. The best step forward is for men to speak about their experience, eating disorders, body image issues, and access to provision. Because you know what, it takes a lot for a politician to cry, but believe me, I've actually seen a politician cry at a person talk about their mental health. It does happen, I swear. They do have a heart. So that is why it's so important. So individuals need to start talking about their difficulties. I'm just checking. Oh, this is the thank you. And I want to say, I just want to end on this. I want to say a absolutely huge thank you to everyone in this audience who help people, and men specifically, with eating disorders. Because you are the people who keep us going. People like me, who, you know, 4 or 5 years ago had absolutely no hope of recovery, and absolutely no hope of the opportunity of going to university, or the opportunity of starting my own campaign, or the opportunity of actually starting a life after eating disorders, and you made it possible. Without you, none of this would have been possible. And you know, I just want to make a special mention to Fixers, Sam, and Mega Disorders too, but everyone who works in the NHS or private, you make this possible for so many people, so many men specifically. So thank you for listening to me drone on continuously about this, but really, I really appreciate you all. Thank you.